Hey guys, welcome or welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Jamie. This will be a reading for Cancer, Sun, Moon, Rising, and Venus placements. If you're completely new to tarot, it's important to understand that me naming those 4 placements means that I could be talking to potentially most of the population. And so not every reading is just going to resonate for you, and that's okay. Like, if you feel like your tarot reader is wrong or it's not your story, that just means the reading doesn't resonate, and you don't have to watch it or listen to it, so just disregard it. I'm going to pull cards like King, Queen, Emperor, and Empress. Those cards don't actually have anything to do with the sex or gender of a person. They describe a personality. I offer private personals. The information for that is in the description of the video. I will also pin it in the comments. Feel free to subscribe to the channel. If you want to catch more content, it'll notify you every time I post. I do also offer a membership. If you want to check that out, you can click the join button. It'll show you all the membership tab, everything I do over there. So I'm not pulling on anything specific tonight. I'm just letting the cards lead the way. I'll clarify everything with the tarot. We'll grab some advice at the end. It's also important to note that if you're new here, sometimes these readings will randomly become love readings. That's what will pop out. And if that's the case, you need to understand I'm not your typical love reader. I will actually hold you accountable. So if that's something that you're not ready for, just disregard me. Don't even worry. All right, so let's get all these up here. Pull these out, and then we'll jump right in. So that was a disclaimer. Okay, so I have legal issues, court, judges, immigration, lawyers, etc. Idle hours, take some time out to lie on the emerald grass. Aggression, violent behavior or attitudes towards another, ready to confront or attack. And a new start is coming, new moon. The overall energy is the 9 of Wands. I have the Ace of Wands, the 5 of Pentacles, the Ace of Cups, the 10 of Swords, the Queen of Swords, the King of Cups, and the Hangman, Pisces energy. Some of you left something that I feel like was really abusive, you know? Not like your typical, like, cute little victim. I'm talking about real abuse. Like, I'm seeing aggression and legal issues. We're talking about calling the cops on someone's aggression. You get what I'm saying? So I think it's taken a lot to, like, move past this. Like, someone, you know, they're resilient and they're doing it, but it hasn't been easy. You know, it's like they already were put through whatever there, and then they had to grieve the loss of whatever this relationship is. Whoever I'm talking to, when they did this and chose to leave the situation behind, they left with nothing. They had to start completely over. Like, someone could have been homeless, is homeless, or they're just, like, really struggling to get by because of this situation. Because what I'm getting is that, like, say you were with someone for a while and then out of nowhere there's this crazy fight where someone puts their hands on you or shit just gets way out of control and the police have to come and somebody's like, fuck it, I'm leaving. But they had to leave with like next to nothing. I feel like whoever they were leaving, that person wanted to see them leave naked and afraid. It was like, there was not, whoever got fucked over in this situation, there just was no way to win. It's like, maybe you called the police and you said you were leaving and, you couldn't take your belongings or anything with you. You just couldn't go back there for anything because of this person's aggressiveness, and it's like, I think the hard part was first leaving this person, there was still a lot of emotion there. There was still a lot of love for the person. So it wasn't just like someone confronting or attacking you and all of this crazy legal mess going on. It's that having to grieve that loss and literally be out here with nothing. Like, I really am getting that, like, somebody literally was in a better position to go to the streets with nothing than the situation that they were actually like living in. And I think that where it was really hard is like when we go through something that's like really this abusive, we tend to, it sounds weird because you would think like leaving somebody who was highly abusive to you would be so like relieving at first, but it's not. You're still grieving a loss. Just because someone was messed up or messy doesn't mean that we didn't love them deeply, So going through, I feel like this was just seriously traumatizing. But the thing here is like, even though this person put you in this situation like this, you still weren't looking at them, I think, in a negative way. Yes, you were hurt and you were pissed off, but there was still love for this person. And I think now there's this actual change in perspectives. It's kind of like you might have been stuck on this for a while. You couldn't get over this person. For others of you, this is not even just about being stuck on this too. Some of you, this legal issue is like, maybe you have to divorce a person, and like this is going to leave you fucked up, broke, looking for a new home, something like this, I don't know, somebody got stuck in a position for a while and they see everything differently now. They could see the whole world differently. Sometimes things like this happen too, where like, say that we get into a situation with someone where we do end up really out and down and out. You know what I mean? That humbling from the universe is going to change who we are, period. It's going to make us more resilient. It's going to make us stronger. I think someone has changed profoundly because of the situation. But another thing that's changing here is how they view this person. I think in the past, they were trying to blame this other person's aggression on them. If I had acted right, if I hadn't said what I said, if I just left it alone, if I just moved past it, this wouldn't have happened. I think that was that initial, like, when someone first left, like that was their attitude towards this. Like they had messed up and that's why the other person had the reaction that they did. And now they're looking at it in a totally different light, Now, for some of you, this is like in the opposite. Like you could have had an argument with someone and they called the police and made it sound like you were being way more aggressive, or they could have been the aggressor, but they called the police on you. And so, I've seen the situation a lot of times where it's like, the person who actually was dealing with the aggression is really like, when police show up, they are really kind of crazy. They're like the one that's out of their mind. You know what I mean? And the abuser, of course, nothing happened to them. So they're just sitting there cooling. But when the police shows up, it kind of looks like the person that was abused is the abuser because they are out of their mind, they're shaky, they're all over they look crazy. And then you have the abuser just kind of sitting over here chilling. And it could have been a situation like that. Like, I think I'm talking to somebody specifically where it's like, essentially, they got arrested for something the other person did. You know, and sometimes this will happen just based off of gender too. You know what I mean? You're a dude and a chick calls the cops on you and claims you hit them. They treat that differently than if a chick hits a man. You got to get the right judge to give a shit about that for some reason. Could have been something like that. For some of you, it could have been something like, the reason you have legal issues is because whoever you chose to leave is somebody who has somebody, like, is involved with somebody who's in the justice system. You know, this would be like, you might have fucked up and dated the sheriff's son or daughter. You get what I'm saying? Like, you're not just leaving this person without serious repercussions, and they're crazy to go with it. You know, they just have somebody that will always back up and enable their fucked up behavior, you know? I just feel like this was a really unfair, messy situation, and somebody's been stuck in this situation for a while. This Five of Pentacles, Ten of Swords energy. So even after you get away from this person and things should be more peaceful, there's still no peace. Either someone ended up, like, you know, grieving a relationship, homeless, broke, and fucked up, you know, like something like that. You know what I mean? It was like just an absolutely unfair situation. Okay, so we have the Knight of Cups, the Knight of Pentacles, the King of Swords. Here this motherfucker comes. They're sorry. Sorry, I was... Maybe that was a flashback or some shit. That wasn't right in my head. Made me sick to my stomach, to be honest. This person, they know you're in this position, and this is when they're going to come around. They feel like you're vulnerable, and they'd be able to get you back in this state. If you come home, I'll drop the charges. If you come home, I'll never do it again. The messy part is whoever I'm speaking to here, they're thinking about this because of the situation they're in. My heart's kind of breaking. I'm kind of getting somebody like had to grab some kids, go to a homeless shelter, and they're thinking about going back to somebody who put them in that fucking situation. Please don't. I think this person has a way of pulling you in. For some of you, this wouldn't be the first time that you would be going back to a person. But if you really look back to it, things actually just continually get worse every time you go back. There's like an allowance, an enabling to somebody's behavior. Somebody's telling themselves, well, I could just set appropriate boundaries. I just got to set boundaries, and then this person won't cross them, and things will be better this time. I should at least talk to them and see what they want. Maybe they can help me to make the situation easier, or maybe they can give me something to help me out here like they claim they're going to. Judgment, the Six of Pentacles, the Nine of Pentacles, the Six of Cups. The Eight of Swords and the Devil. There's some things going on internally in someone that would be hard for the people around them to understand. You know what I mean? Like, I think at this point when there's like police and the courts involved, like, you know, people's friends and family are also involved, it would actually be hard to even let the person back in. Super hard not to. The problem is, though, if you forgive this person, the treatment really isn't going to change. I feel like, you know, the lesson that's trying to be taught to you here is independence. And the name of the game of the relationship here is codependence. Like I said, somebody's situation here put them flat out. Like, it fucked them up when they left the situation. And I'm not judging you, because Lord knows, a lot of times in these situations, you get pulled into it manipulatively on purpose, right? It's not really that hard. It's like this, right? I meet somebody and we start dating, right? And 6 months later, I ask them to move in with me. And once they do, I start trying to talk them out of work, right? Or telling them that they really don't need to work, or they get pregnant. So now I tell them not to work. You know, like, however you want to start that situation where dependency begins, and someone's like, okay, I'll give up my independence and depend on you. And that's when this happens. You know, it's, you know, people aren't fucking stupid. They don't just like go get with abusive people. You know, it starts off real slow with like your dream partner until you're stuck in a situation. So you have two options here. Either you go through the struggle and you keep pushing and you gain complete independence, and then you can take some time out to lie on the emerald grass where there's actual peace in life, or you can return to the past. This is the energy over there. I'm getting, for some of you, you could have been dealing with someone who has like a bit of a drug problem too. And so that can also be complicated. If you meet a person and they're normal and then later on they get involved with some drugs, you're not with the same person anymore. That's extra fucking confusing. You know, it's extra confusing because you know that person's a good person somewhere inside. And I think that's the main problem here is like somebody is essentially with like a Jekyll and Hyde type of person, and it's very hard to get away from and to go back to. Like, but this is really, I think, warning you that nothing has changed over there. The idea here, okay, is to draw you back in like they have in the past and to keep you stuck into place. And it's not hard to do here because somebody's already fucked up. Not all the way fucked up, though. They have all this opportunity to gain their independence. You know what I mean? Like, say, you know, I'm completely broke and I would have been homeless, but I got put into a shelter. Okay, but at the shelter I have counselors and people to help, right? And support to get away from that, and if it's not, you're not completely, starving or homeless or something, there's support. If you just keep pushing through with it, though, you will never need somebody again. And I think the universe is trying to give you that gift. Because who ends up in these situations? People who don't have support somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? If I can't call my family because they're not going to help, or like we're estranged, or I just straight up don't have family, something like that, or I just don't have a support system, and this is the only person that I've been able to depend on in life, it's very fucking hard to let that person go. And you don't have to. It's totally up to you, you know what I mean? But I think Spirit really is trying to remind you that you deserve better, and that you can have better if you're willing to just push through the idle hours, the hard work that needs to be done here, to just get past it, to just move on with your life from this person and situation. It's not going to be easy, though, especially emotionally, Now, I think it was starting to get easier for somebody here, but now this person's coming back around. But we need to talk about this in a way, especially if this person touched you. Because this is indicative of that pattern. I promise you, women that have been abused, the only women or men that can say I only got hit once in that relationship is because they fucking left the first time they got hit. It just progressively gets worse. And however you got away the last time, or whatever it was that they could do to you the last time, that's where they're going to go to. This person just is not capable of having good intentions. That's what I want to say. They will not just do the things that they've already done. What this is trying to say is these patterns get worse because if you go back, you're enabling. This card really wanted to be out. It's the Eight of Wands. The Emperor. Aries energy. Taking this as advice would be the advice I just gave. This is your chance to progress and take back control of your life. And though it might hurt like hell when this person reaches out and they're right there at your fingertips again to say no, this is necessary. Some of you have children and you can't. You can't have the. Do you understand the risk of this type of home life for a child? You cannot let, and I think this person is very schmoozy. They know how to suck a bitch in. That's how they got somebody in the beginning. That's how they consistently pull people back in. It won't change. If you want change in life, you got to be the change. You got to move away from it. You got to start over, This is going to be tough, though. This is happening this week. And I do think, in these situations, you got to really think about it. People why would you ever go back to somebody who's abusive? Well, have you ever been homeless? You ever lived in a shelter? You ever had to go stay at your third best friend's house with her 7 kids? Have you been in those kinds of situations? Because it's easy to judge if you haven't, But having a couple of kids in a fucking shelter versus at home in their beds, yeah, there's a big difference. But you can get there soon on your own. Some of you don't have kids. You just still fucking have emotions for this person. And life is easier with them. Life is just easier with this person. It's like somebody to pay half the bills, somebody to take care of half the fucking shit, At least they take out the garbage, I'm tired of doing that, it's just easier. And then you don't have to go find new love, and you don't have to go through this process of grieving. But I promise you, you will again. for some of you if you make it out. And you know what I mean by that. So before I start crying, I'm getting out of here. Whoever this was for, I love you guys. Stay strong. You don't need a bitch. You can do it on your own. And if not, hit me up first before you go to help from them. Please. All right, bye.